Hey everybody, Texas Stroker here, Lance's Performance Shop, LoneStarMopars.com. I thought this would be a pretty quick video, and in fact, I was going to make it Sunday night. I thought it was going to be that quick, and as fate would have it, I had to just stop what I was doing and put it off until today. The reason I was going to crank it out, I was going to bring the Impact with me. In fact, let's go ahead and throw this down. Hot off the press is this little gem right here. This is just Hercules half-inch drive Impact. It's not the big one. It's not the Ultra. They've got two tiers that would be above this. Can't even think of the names. I know one's Ultra. Throw some other adjective in there, and there's one more. Of course, they're going to be larger, heavier. Of course, trade-off is you have way more torque capabilities with them. But I have been quite happy with the one that I've got sitting right here. And this is one that I got long ago. How long ago? Well, this has a 5-year warranty, and this one does not. And you're like, wait, but it says brushless. It should have a 5-year warranty. Nope. This thing, I just pulled it back up in my backlog of videos. And I want to say we released it 2 years ago, if I recall correctly. And it's been good to me. I haven't used it a ton. Again, most of what I do here, this stays at the house and goes out on the driveway mainly. That's the big line. Like, anytime I'm doing anything, if I have the compressor on, I use air. If I don't have the compressor on, or I need to do something and I don't want to turn the compressor on, i.e. it's late, or a one-off deal, or somebody shows up for me to do something and I'm going out on the driveway, which is a pain to run an air hose, particularly with the toolboxes and not having a new hose reel mounted. That's where this comes in. It's been good to me, no issues. You'll note there's 3 speeds there, 1, 2, and 3, indicated by the 3 bars. You cycle between them here. And this is the thing, like I plan to show you this box. You'll note there's nothing in it. And I was just going to show you this tool and say, yeah, I picked up one of these and I'm going to have it at work. Here's where we got into something interesting. When I opened this one, you know, pay attention to the packaging here, right? And this is the brand new one. And I set it down and bring it into the frame, and you might notice a subtle difference. If you don't yet, maybe you do now. If you're still clueless as to what it is, perhaps that does it. Still nothing. Well, this is about the best angle I can give you. All right, aside from this one being used and this one being brand new. This is like a very light silver, and this is a very dark silver, kind of like a magnesium type of a color, right? So I was like, man, you know, when I got this out, I was like, I don't think my other ones were a light silver. They were kind of like dark, sort of tied in with the color scheme. Different. And I thought, is that going to be what they do to differentiate the warranties? And when I grabbed this out of the box and sitting underneath it was my 3/8, it has the 5-year warranty. Okay, this one we didn't even get over a year ago. You'll note it's the same dark tone as this guy. So I think to myself, what's going on? You know, why is this one a darker tone than the new one? What's the deal? Because that 3/8 is a 5-year warranty. How are we going to differentiate it? As I start inspecting this one and I turn it around, I usually kind of like date my tools, you know, here are the batteries at least, and there was this tag, and I'm like, hey, I don't think my other ones have that. And so we'll come in here, take the 5 amp hour off. Again, this goes back to December of 2021 on this one. And right here, I usually keep the same battery paired, but you'll note there's no tag there. I have no nefarious reason to scrape a tag out of this thing. And you think, okay, well, hey, that's probably just done for, you know, and you'll also know this is an old battery because back in the day, we've been in the Hercules line for a long time. This top section matched the tool trim. I think personally it looks better, but as they evolved, they went to the all-black battery. What do I mean by that? Well, this one does not have the color coordination. This one, as you can see, 7/29/23, probably around the time we got this. I should probably buy this a 5 amp hour. I just haven't done it. There hadn't been a deal. I don't want to buy another charger, right, to make that happen. What am I caught on? Good Lord. But this thing, when I flip it over, and I promise you this has the 5-year warranty, there's no tag. And it's, again, the dark color just like that one. I will be totally honest with you. Like, I've bought these. I've been happy with them. You'll also note 3 modes just like this one. I haven't really kept tabs on what changes they're making, when they're making the change, anything along those lines, okay? To me, this should be the same as that, and it's totally not. And you think, okay, well, hey, is it just the colors? What's the deal? Well, spin this around, you'll note that it's all black on that one. This one had the color cutaway, which again, I personally think that looks better. The part line also seems to be a little bit more intact there. If we look at this one, where do they put the model number? That's 59427. It's a total different setup, right? The one in my hand that's new, represented in this box, is a 59427. That's probably not the Hercules number, but that would be more like the SKU that would pull it up. This one in my hand, the older one from 2021, it is a 57563, which I don't even think you can find on the tag anymore. Also, serial numbers there at the top. So I don't know what went on and when it changed, but I can tell you that this one right here, my 3/8 one, is in fact warranted. And I had a scare because I'm somebody, when I get these types of tools, you know, sort of, I say expensive, this is now $69, that's why I bought it. It was a price reduction recently. I thought, yeah, that's a pretty good deal. I always kind of hang on to the boxes, and here recently I was like, I've got too many boxes, and I started cutting down Hercules boxes, and I thought, did I keep those or cut them down? And I knew I'd cut down the ratchet boxes. I'd had them all this time, never used them, obviously. The ratchets, again, predate any warranty of any sort. And I thought to myself, hey, let's just get that out of here. Like, that's ridiculous. You're never going to do anything with it. Just get it gone. And I thought, yeah, maybe I kept them. And luckily I did. You know, I don't know if anyone else does this type of a thing, but I do. So right here, again, pay attention to the 5-year warranty. This box does not have that. This is the 3 mode. You know what? This actually had a higher breakaway torque, be danged. This is 500 foot-pounds. This is 555. What the heck? Right? You'd think you get better over time. There's the HC B8 4B. And then right here, you'll note this is the HC. And if you're curious, like, hey, you should know this. No, I'm going in this blind with you. This is the exact same Hercules number, but with a 2 at the end. So I guess this is the second iteration, and somehow the second iteration dropped 55 foot-pounds breakaway torque, which is crazy. Right here, this box is actually the 3/8, which you can see there conveniently, and you'll see it's an HC B82B. Now, I didn't buy a new 3/8. Why? Because I'm cheap. They did go down too. They're now bare tool $64.99. Yes, you get a way better deal if you buy the charger and the battery. The catch is you're kind of, with a kit, which they finally do, you're not getting the big battery. I think I just missed a 5 amp hour deal, but basically, if you're curious, the setup I have, the really old, again, this might have better specs than the new ones for all I know, but the really, really old Hex Impact driver, right? I got my nephew one recently for Christmas and his birthday, the drill and Hex driver, respectively. I have the OG one, right? Not fancy. No, I don't even think that one's brushless, honestly. Some of you may have bought it dirt cheap on clearance, but I got it when it was new. I have used that thing at work. Keep in mind, this is not, main production line stuff, that's air, but just small things I'm doing, and motors and lag screws, simple things like that. In the event that the ratchet doesn't clear, or it's just something stubborn or a giant sunk-in lag screw, I'll bust that sucker out, and it's what I run. And you're like, well, how do you do that if it's a Hex Impact? I run the adapters, 1/4, 3/8, and half. It spends most of its time when half and 3/8. Probably with sockets, 1/2 inch being most common. And I kind of feel like I'm taxing the tool a bit much, like I'm asking more of the tool than it should really be doing. And I kind of had it on my short list. I was like, if there's ever a deal on these, I should pick them up. Hercules, you usually are excluded with coupons. And then when there's deals, they're never like super, super good deals, The bigger impacts, the ultra torque and the high torque, or whatever they call it. Sometimes you get decent money off those, but again, that's not really my game there with what I'm doing. I'm still a pneumatic person. But I thought, you know what? They just recently dropped the price on these. You know, it's down from like 75 to 64, 69, what have you. 80 bucks in this case, I think, down to the 69. So I thought, you know what? Let's just pull the trigger. And if you're thinking like, man, you need a battery for that, and that battery would be expensive. Well, what I do, again, if I'm running this, I'm not running that little Hex Impact. So I've got the big battery. I just swap them, right? It works out really well because the ratchets are just 12 volts, so that's kind of steady force there. And then the big battery, I swap back and forth. I technically, for this 3/8, we'd have a 5 amp hour. I just keep that on the blower. So back and forth we can go and make it all line up, but it work. If I'm going to run this and it's not currently in use, I pull the battery off the Hex Impact. If I need to then go back to the Hex Impact, I swap the battery. Once there's a low price or some sort of a deal on the batteries, that's when I'll jump and make things change. But for now, I'm totally fine being a cheapskate with a tool only and just swapping batteries. It's not ideal, but it's not a big deal either. You know, I've got them both on the top of the cart. I just switch batteries. But this is what kind of I didn't know when this had happened. If it had any fanfare, I sure missed it. I check their website just as frequently as I do KC Tool. Sometimes you'll see, you know, there's refreshes at Harbor Freight, right? You'll have some tool that you might have just bought, you know, it could be a sander or some sort, you know, or a grinder, and then you'll see it listed in new tools, and you're like, that's not new. You know, that thing's been out forever, and I finally got a good deal on it 2 weeks ago. Well, they've changed, whether it's suppliers or some tweak of some sort. Something changed. That's why there's an extra 2 at the end of this part number. This is why down here there's that tag. This is why there's subtle changes. I also noticed, this is really minor, but where this new one is sitting here, and you can see I complained that they took the color away from the back. Again, I kind of liked that. Well, this whole handle here on the old one is black, right? There's no color at all. Look at that. They've got the string of color down it. So subtle changes. And also, again, the big deal, dropping that many foot-pounds, which is kind of crazy, considering the old one would theoretically outperform the new one. The other thing that caught my eye, if we come in here and I flip this around for you, this is your LED, okay? Not going to do anything too scientific here, but this is the old one. Hopefully you can tell with the dark case. That's what the LED looks like. If I come in over here to our 3/8 one that does have the warranty, you'll notice it is the exact same light, okay? Now, if we rip this battery off and go to town, throw it on this little guy, brand new 1/2 inch, that'll allow us to do a couple of things. Number one, showcase this honker, okay? Look, this is a robotic cyber-esque LED, right? Kind of covered with a headlight lens. This is just an LED kind of haphazardly thrown together between 2 plastic housings. All right, looks like a little more thought went into this one. But if I kick it, and we kick this one, we'll activate. I'm going to turn that away, activate. I would say this one's noticeably brighter, right? I don't know that they have specs on that anywhere, but yeah, competing lights, I'm going to go with this one. Aesthetics for me are kind of torn. I do sort of like the lighter color. It's nice contrast. This doesn't look bad by any stretch of the imagination. But the big deal that some of you are probably screaming about is this, all right? Let me come back in with this box. When we see it, you're going to see that we have got 555, but up there at the top, 3-mode drive control. 1, 2, and 3. That's just simply your selector button, right? This is 4-mode. You got 1, 2, 3, and auto. And you're thinking like, what in the world is auto? Well, as best I can tell, auto, which again is going to be the A on this particular tool versus our old school 1/2 inch. You can kind of see the difference there. You can also see the contrast and the colors between the two. If I pop you up more, you can kind of see the silver. So again, left-hand side is the new one, right-hand side is the previous model, I guess we'll call it at this point. This right here, it doesn't indicate the 2, right? So that's kind of a shame. But if we come in to this side, I guess I won't shove that in front of you, I'll just read it. Setting 1. 0 to 1,000 RPMs, 0 to 1,300 IPM. What is an IPM? Impacts per minute. Setting 2, 1,600 RPM, 1,900 impacts. Setting 3, up to 2,000 RPM, and up to 2,800 impacts. A, forward. That's going to be your auto in forward. This is the way the manual describes it. Tool stops within a few impacts when driving small, self-tapping metal screws. So you've probably got that one guy in the shop or an employee, right? And you set them up, and whatever they're doing, a task at hand, maybe they're driving, some self-tappers. In our case, it'd be a number 10 by 3/4. And you come in and, it's 3/4 of an inch. Whatever you're going through, there's not that many threads on it, right? It's 3/4 of an inch, for goodness sake. So a normal person, and you hear the grunt and you lift off, right? You let go of the trigger. Not everyone's like that, right? So you got another guy over here, and he's running one down, and it's like, hey man, that's 3/4 of an inch, and it's a number 10 screw. It's hey, I'm gonna need another screw. Yeah, I bet you do, genius. So auto mode might come in handy sometimes if you can keep people on it and not on 3. Reverse in auto is a similar setup. The tool stops impacting once the work is stopped. So basically what that's going to mean, let's say we come in, we got a rusted bolt. You're going to come down on it, impact, it breaks it free. I guess it would stop. I don't know. That means like full stop. You got to take your hand off the trigger, pull again, and have it just come out. Not sure, because again, even though I've used this one since probably 21, and that one for almost a year on the 3/8 side, neither one of them had the auto mode feature. So brushless, 5-year warranty on the tool. Again, I didn't get a battery here, but that'd be 3. My 3/8 one, even though it's just like my non-warranted 1/2 inch, it has the 5-year warranty on the tool, 3-year on the battery. I don't know how they're keeping track of all this, but again, this new one here, it's subtly different. Most notable thing is going to be the color of the case on the head there. And then there's subtle differences between the two. Again, all black on the new one, blue on this one. This is an all black handle. This has blue runners. Batteries, and the bottom of the tool is black versus, this one that's blue. I don't know if that's a trash can or a Harley coming in. Somebody's either rolling a wheelbarrow down my rocky driveway, or there's a bike outside. But anyway, that was just really interesting to me, because again, my plan was I was going to throw this box down, tell you I picked this up, took it to work, and this is what it would be. And then when I got that out of the box, lo and behold, I was like, well, good Lord, they're different. So this is kind of one of those things. Again, I think it's just sort of under the rugs. One of those reasons being the brand new one has 500 foot-pounds of breakaway torque, and my old ancient one from 2 years ago has 555 foot-pounds breakaway torque. I can't explain it. It is what it is. Let's just leave it at that and get into something else, right? So, I'm very proud of myself for having the gumption, I guess, to hang on to those boxes just a little while longer. What I want to know from you, do you do that too? Right? My rigid stuff that's way before these, guess what? I've still got the box. So, it's what it is. I don't know. I guess, when something's expensive, I'm just more inclined. If it was $19, I probably would have trashed it. But, it's like, oh yeah, that's a rigid 2-piece set. We should keep that box. I can't explain it. It is what it is. But something else that is what it is are these little gems right here. This is not from Harbor Freight. This is from Irwin. And this goes way back in time. Some of you might be able to date them. I believe this was bought at Home Depot. I don't even know. Like, this is old enough. I know I was with my mom, probably because I didn't have a driver's license. I don't know if I would have paid cash for it. I don't even know if I would have had a credit card at that point in time. So this was either a gift or something more likely I probably paid cash with, right? And I also don't recall if this was sold as a 4-pack or 2 2-packs, but I know it was one of those things that was just hanging on the aisle, not an end cap, but just hanging on the aisle. I was like, hey, there's the clamps. I got these, I think, the same day I picked up some sawhorses, one of which was crushed by the gantry crane. Otherwise, that had been with me for a long time. I think they were Stanleys. And then these little Irwins, they've been pretty dadgum good. You're thinking, like, so what's the problem? Well, this is the problem. And you think, no, it's not. They work really well. It's got the quick adjust. If you got something like 4 inches, you'd slide it down, clamp, cool. It's even got boots. What's the deal? The roll pins in the back. You got nothing to complain about. They're a little dirty. You clean that up, you're saying. You're 100% correct. We could probably clean that up. I don't know about this one, but here's the deal. This is max extension until we take the roll pin out, right? It's going to clock in at 6 3/4. This is probably what I would assume they'd call a 6-inch. What happens when I have something that's longer than, usually when I use these, it's, more like putting something on a table, right? Just to hold it, to cut it, or keep it in place type of a thing. Drilling, for example, cutting. Here recently, I've had to do some things where I've like been working width-wise, right? Like longer items that I need to clamp them together so I don't have to stand there manually and hold it. And I realized that this is all I've got in terms of sheet metal stuff, cheap little clamps, really nice, kind of some even semi-exotic, like vice grips and, metal holding. Yeah, we got some cool stuff there, but in terms of this style of a clamp, this is it. I've got 3 more of these, and that's all I've got. And when there's something longer than 6 3/4 of an inch, whether it be 6 7/8, 7 inches, or 20 inches, I can't clamp it, right? So that's a problem. And this is my solution, one of them. We have 2 solutions. This is the cheaper solution. It is from Pittsburgh. I want to say this thing was only $4.99, so I'll be totally honest, I don't have much in the way of expectations for it, but I can tell you it's pretty similar to the Irwin. Not quite as ergonomic in my opinion. It also feels very cheap, where the Irwin here, the subtle little things, I'm not a woodworker, but this is sort of thin, but it's solid core, right? And you think, well, this looks like way more ergonomic. You're going to complain about that part line again? You do love to nitpick about those. And well, that is an issue. That's not very comfortable. It could cut you. But if I can turn this thing awkwardly, watch my fingertip here. It's going away. Why? Because this is sort of hollow core. Now, there's reinforcement in there, but there's not like a front face to that, okay? It's just a cheaper clamp. In terms of how it's going to work, right back here on the thumb, we're able to trigger it. It runs back. You'll note there is a pin that doesn't look near as robust as the one in the Irwin. Keep in mind, if you're like, I had Irwin clamps and they suck. This is old. This is probably, I would guess, right around 20 years old. So, things, slightly better, in some assets of life. The clamp pad, I should say, looks like a tombstone kind of. It's not the softest thing. I'm not sure how well it'll hold up, but it's there, right? And for $5, it should be fine. In terms of going in, right, we can quickly adjust with this. And then right here, let's say that we had something here to clamp. Boom, there you go. I'm stuck until I turn sideways and pop out, just like the material you're trying to clamp will probably do. A little bit of play. Again, nothing crazy. The part number on this one, 64151. Realistically, I don't think I can complain for the price till it breaks. And you're thinking like, what did you just do with this thing? Well, I'm turning a knob and it's got to do something, right? Well, I would think that it would as well. Do you have to take this all the way out? Huh. You do. So there's what it is. It's got some threads, and you think like, threads? Yeah, there's captive nut on this side. And if you're thinking like, why would you do that? So you can flip this. You can get that off. That's why you would use scissors when you could take this apart. It's one of those deals you can actually just flip this over, and then you've turned it into a spreader type of a design, right? So you can clamp or you can spread. Now, the better setup for that is from Bremen, and it's going to cost a little bit more, but it's right here. It's going to set you back. I want to say this one was $9.99. They didn't really have the sizes I wanted across the board, but this is kind of more akin to the Irwin. Obviously a little bit bigger, a little different of a design, but right here, instead of having that kind of awkward one there that I believe I've broken in the past, you come in and you just pull this, you go to town. This is also a much nicer pad. Wouldn't say much, but noticeably nicer, I think would be the best way to word that. Right over here is your quick adjust. Slide it in, slide it out. Another thing, which is kind of an upgrade, I would think, from both the Pittsburgh and the Irwin. See how that looks like it's raised? And you're thinking, well, what's the point of that? Well, it's on a track, which, you know, I'm not a rocket scientist, but I would assume if I had to pick whether I want something on a smooth rail or a track, I would think this would be slightly more robust. So we're going to run with that. Front side and back side, this pin actually seems to be a lot better than the Pittsburgh as well. And if I can open this up, man, do you really have to take this pad off? You do. So I'm taking the pad off. Why? I want to get this to where you can see it. You'll understand why here in a second. Let's see here. And this one, I don't really care if we tear it. Hey, this is nice. It's not just paper. It's a slight upgrade over that. Kind of like a birthday card material or something. But this is what you need to see to understand it. Okay. So from Bremen, 12-inch clamp. Lifetime guarantee, which again is nice. They claim 375 pounds. What does the Pittsburgh hold? The world may never know. You'll have to experiment and find the point of failure yourself. Always exciting. But pistol grip action, again, I am a big fan of that. In part, I think, just because that's all I have with the Irwin, so it's all I'm really used to. At work, we have really, really, really long ones, and they're also that same style, so I know nothing else. But right here, you can come in and you can quickly convert from a bar clamp to a spreader. Every once in a while, we have to do that type of stuff. I'm usually using a come-along or something. But right here, they're going to say that it is a tough, reinforced nylon body. The throat depth on this one, 3 3/16 of an inch. Again, there's a quick release. There's the ergonomic grip. They've got removable, again, the Pittsburghs are as well. Non-marring pads. I-beam construction, again, that's what I'm kind of calling the track there. Prevents unwanted bend or flex under pressure. And it's 2 times the clamping force, asterisk. Wow. Wow, I know some of you are like, what brand did they bash? Who are they comparing it to? Snap-on? Knipex, you know, so who is it that makes legendarily good clamps like this? Well, check this out. This is kind of a fair comparison. Compared to Pittsburgh ratcheting bar clamps, that little gem that we have down there, yeah, this has over double the clamping force. I could see that. I could definitely see that. My thoughts were, will I like this? I should, but I want to find out, especially before we jump up and spend more money on a clamp, especially when there was no coupon. And then the Pittsburgh, it was so cheap, and it's a 6-inch jump. You know, we've got sort of a 6, a 12, and an 18 here. I wanted to feel it out. For all I know, the Pittsburgh will be just fine for what I do. If it is, I wanted to have it ready and leave it, go to town. But I'm sure some of you might be interested in the spreader function. In all honesty here, this is what I'm going to be doing. Okay, I'm going to open it up roughly to where I want to be, and then we're going to clamp down. This is a bit bulkier than the Irwin or the Pittsburgh, but ultimately I'll just have to use these two and play around, see which one I ultimately wind up liking better. If you're ever there, they've got a decent selection, and again, depending on what you're doing, you know, and how often you're going to use these, you might have a good deal. So, I'm not sure that the Pittsburgh will suck, but it might. But it was also $5, so we'll kind of feel it out. Give it a fair shake, at least. And then this one, it's what I would prefer to have, just aesthetically and kind of just initial impression, even in the store when you kind of grab them off the pegs. It just seems a step above, right? Reflected there in the price as well. But yeah, if you use either one of them, and this is something where I probably have an awful lot of you. Again, I'm not a big woodwork guy, so some of you are probably, hey, these things are great. You know, I get a ton of them. I don't care if I, you know, trash them with glue or something or stain all over them. Some of you are like, hey, those Pittsburghs are cheap and they're kind of junky, but if you don't really tax them, they're pretty solid. Some of you will say, never touch those Pittsburghs with a 10-foot pole. They should be condemned and not legal for sale or use in the United States of America. I don't know. I'm jumping into it blind again. All I've known is those little Irwins there, and I got to tell you, I really like them, and I wouldn't have bought either one of these if I had bigger sets of the Irwins. If these suck, I'll try to find a bigger set of the Irwins, you know, if they're still made and seem roughly the same. They're about to time out there, so I ended it. But yeah, your thoughts and opinions on the clamps, because again, many of you will have way more insights and experience on that than me. All I can tell you is if these suck and you're thinking like, man, those Irwins look good. I don't know what current ones are, but again, from probably 15, 25 years back, if you can find something like this, they've been good to me. So they're very dirty, but they've been good to me. This is actually one of the cleaner ones. I selected it for your viewing pleasure, but yeah, I like the ergonomics on it. It's a nice design. The pins haven't come out. I actually have seen a buddy who had, I think, a way bigger set of these than me. He flipped them around. To do that, you have to knock the pin out on these. But we've popped the dent out of a 3rd gen charger, and I'm not talking new. When I say 3rd gen, okay, I'm talking 71 to 74. It's a big front fender, and it worked really well. Of course, part of that was like a well beat up 2x4. But it was one of those things. You're like, oh, this dude's crazy. This is never gonna work, and then it worked. You're like, this guy's a freaking genius. So newfound respect for the clamps on that front. Since we're going here, and I don't know when I would get around to doing it, I finally saw these in the local store. And they were supposed to be 99 cents, and I wound up paying $1.99 because I was in a hurry and didn't check the receipt or argue about my lost dollar. But this is relatively new. You can never have too many markers. It's really weird right now because I'm used to being at work and I have a Milwaukee Inksol. I just still call it a marker, but technically it's a Milwaukee Inksol in my pocket. And I don't have it here. I was about to pull it out so we could compare it. I actually, one second. Oh Lord, there should be several around here, but there's not. I have the same markers here as I do at work, but anyway, I don't know if it matters too much to people. But these can basically be had for under $2, $1 a pin when they're on sale. Like I should have got them for, they'd be 50 cents, which is kind of hard to argue with as long as they don't suck terribly bad. But 760 would be the part number. Again, black on black. It would have been nice if these had color of their choice. Why? When you drop these or you leave them, they show up better. Okay, it's one of those things that's very, very simple. This could be pink, they could be fuchsia, magenta, I don't care. Just give me some kind of high vis color and it's going to make my life a little bit easier. They're going to claim that these are fine point, which is honestly what I prefer, unless it's a chisel tip, and then I want like a big fat one, Right there, they got a pocket clip, there's a lanyard loop, and a hard hat clip. I guess that could be beneficial to some people. For me, it will be cumbersome and a problem. There's an anti-roll design, which that actually looks like it would work based on what I'm seeing here. They claim it's 144-hour up to 6-day cap-off life. Again, think back to the auto mode example of the employee or coworker. Put the cap on, I come in like today, I get 300 foot of cable off a roll, and guess what I do? I put the current total, and I do minus 300, and I write the new total, and then you know what I do with my marker? I put the lid on it, and I put it back in my pocket. And then everyone else walks around and like, oh, I need a marker. And it's like, well, you're supposed to have one on, you genius. This stuff isn't rocket science, right? So, I always have a knife on me. I always have a marker on me. I always have cobras in my mind. I guess I'm just a scale up on the handy side or something, but you give your employees these things so they don't have to like run from where you're cutting cable to the front of the shop at the break area to grab their marker. But people never seem to learn. I can't make it make sense. I've tried to for years, and it just drives you insane. That said, they claim it will ride on dusty, wet, and oily surfaces, and boy, can I do all three of those. We'll test that out. There is a clog-resistant marker tip. That shouldn't be a selling point, but I guess it is. And they're going to say most materials, so I guess you'd have wood, concrete, I guess that's PVC, cinder block, brick. Heaven forbid, brick would be a nightmare if you're actually having to try to mark that. And then here's an I-beam, I guess, for metal. Use outdoors only, well ventilated, avoid breathing fumes. Use intended as only eye contact. Not sure how you manage that, but safety glasses would help. Rinse. Blah, 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 fine point. So, Do you like these? Have you used them? Again, I'm sure some of you have grabbed them. Again, I wanted to right when they came out, and they were never in stock. I couldn't find them ever. I gotta tell you, it doesn't feel bad in hand. It's actually kind of slippery though. That's unfortunate, but it doesn't feel bad, but there's also no texture. The anti-roll I think will be legit. This is the thing, you know, a lanyard for a marker. Like, I could see it being, I mean, I'm sure if you're up on scaffolding or something, it's kind of a big deal. But for me, like, that's unwanted bulk in my pocket. You know what I mean? This side I'm fine with. It's actually pretty sleek. This side I get that you couldn't do that. This is split down the middle as well. Why? Again, for a hard hat, which I guess that could come in handy too. The anti-roll, like I said, kind of nice. And they even, wow, anti-roll ridge. Well, thank you for labeling that. But if you've used these, how do you like them? What are you comparing them to? Similarly, do you want to see some changes, some revisions, some additions? Would you like a medium tip? Would you like a chisel point? Would you like colors? That's really the next step, right? Black is good until black isn't visible, and then you need a lighter color, a silver, a blue, you know, green, red in some cases, if you're marking things. For me, I'm mainly riding on metal. A lot of times, you know, wood. Sometimes, you know, like you're shipping an order out, you know, I'll write on the box what it is for the customer type of a thing. Right here, this actually looks pretty nice. Let's see here. We will come in and rip this open. Get that off. And we have to keep this because Lord knows we might need to make some epoxy in it. I can't throw stuff away. I don't know what's wrong with me. 1920s relatives would be proud. But right here, we will put HF. There you go. Well, all right, it works. It's, I was going to say it's faint. I think it's just sort of a fine tip. I'm not used to having a tip that's not just mushed up. Give me 1 second. I don't know why there's not one right behind me. There's supposed to be. But I'll run over there to a different table and I'll grab one of the Milwaukees. Oh, I'm so proud of myself right now. We made record time. Of course, we recovered this. This is a Milwaukee. This is what I'm typically using. Main reason, we used to run Sharpies, but these are just kind of easier and cheaper for me to get. And I guess we just don't want to focus on, there we go. But again, it's the Inksaw, you know, if we don't want to be technical. So come in. This one's relative, I mean, it's not brand new, so it's really not a fair comparison. But it's kind of a fatter tip right there. That's MIL for Milwaukee. They claim it's a fine point. Again, I don't know that it's as fine as the Harbor Freight. There's really no issues with these. I get pretty good life out of them. Their paint pins suck. Oh, those are terrible. But this, aside from like the silk screening coming off if you cared, and then it always gets black down here, I don't really have issues. The nice thing versus the Harbor Freight one, guess which one is going to show up easier when I leave it somewhere, heaven forbid, or I have to find a coworker's because I don't want them to use my new one, the red one. It's just the way it works. I understand doing black. It's sleek. It's, you know, not going to be as crazy looking if you have like some bright yellow pin. But I think the future revision, kind of like we saw with the Impacts, if they go for a 2.0, pick a color, any color, put it on here and just make people's life a little bit easier. What do I mean also then, in addition to the lineup, I use the snot out of these. This is a little silver Sharpie. Why do I use those? For marking on metals, things like that. So if I come in here, this one is heavily tainted, by the way. But you can see the tip there. This one's very, very old. I rest assured there are new ones. Right here, this is just something I'm proud of. This is a stack of tires. It's supposed to be. It's from Tony Stewart, right? It's actually not straight from Tony Stewart. This was like an Easter thing I got long ago. Probably not as long as those Irwin clamps. I don't know what it had in it. Some chocolate candy, a bunny, I don't know. But I was like, yeah, make a good pin caddy. And here it is, all these years later, probably close to 20. And by gosh, I've got it. Also, check this out. This is going to be pretty sweet. Not that anyone really cares. Some of the Mopar people might. Don't know how I wound up with this one, but Burns Motor Company, Plymouth, Overton, Texas. That's right, Plymouth. When's the last time you saw a straight up Plymouth dealership, right? Good times. Now, the thing I'm most excited about, I told you, we used to use kind of Sharpie similar to this, unless it was one of the chisel tips. And I said, in that case, I want one of the big ones. I don't know, like this is kind of like old school office supply stuff. I think they still make them because we still have them. It's either we have a massive backlog of these at work, or they're just still a thing. But it's Sanford's, and it's a king size marker. Let me just drop this glorious thing down again. We're kind of taking a time trip here. These things are epic. Again, I genuinely prefer, like, out of these three, I like that. I'm somebody that likes fine. Very, very fine. That's my preference. You can't read fat pins, right? This is one of those times, like, I'm using this when I'm, like, marking something ginormous, right? For an idiot on down the line. Like, do not use. I don't want to use the fine one there. I want this. Many of you, as soon as I take this cap off, will transcend through time, and you'll smell this from your childhood, from a previous job, just because you currently still use these. Oh yeah, good times, I tell you. Now this one was my grandfather's. I think it was like the last one. And oh yeah, if you're curious, you're like, well, that thing is really old. Yeah, and I smell every bit of it right now. It's fantastic. So you can tell by the washed out text that it's losing its get up and go, but many years of satisfactory performance here. Again, that chisel tip is still in amazing shape. The extra little quality things, see, like on the cap, the reinforcements that then tie in here on this, like case in point. Yeah, good stuff. So basically everybody's gonna have a preference. I think you owe it to yourself to try these, especially again at that $1 mark for the 2-pack. That's a good buy. Now, it could be a deal where, you can use these and do the exact same tasks, and if you get 3 weeks out of the Harbor Freight and you get 8 weeks out of the Milwaukee, you might have to come in and do a cost assessment, right? If it's, you get 2 weeks out of them and then both of them are illegible because the tips have mutilated themselves and it's just too fat and it's annoying and you get a new pin, take that into consideration. For me, it's just one of those things you can never have too many of, and I'm willing to give these a go. Again, since we're talking particularly about, iterations and updates and things that might go under the radar, please color this thing. Whether you want to make a Milwaukee knockoff and have it red, or whether you want to do a Sharpie knockoff and have it silver, whether you just want to do your own thing and maybe use like a Hercules blue. Anything is better than black because black is the easiest to lose. Now, unless you're like doing fences and they have like grass green that happens to correlate exactly to the grass you're working in, I can see that being annoying. But good Lord, just some color would be much appreciated there. So again, I'm sure some of you grabbed those immediately. Again, I wanted to, I just couldn't find them. Let us know, like how do they perform? How do they compare to what you had? And of course, what did you have, so people actually know how it's comparing. But yeah, I think that's it. So we got the clamps, which hopefully they'll be good. This little guy right here will be going to work without the battery. That'll go back on the 3/8 one eventually. Especially if they have one of those like 2-for-1 battery deals. I'll grab a 5.0 for this new 1/2 inch, and I'll grab a 5.0 for the little 3/8 guy. And then if I decide the 1/2 inch isn't quite enough and I want the ultra torque or something, or maybe they'll have a new adjective in front of one, another adjective by that point in time with a better warranty or something, we'll come in and we'll cross that bridge when we get there. But yeah, I think that's caught us up on the Harbor Freight front again. Kudos to me for keeping those boxes and not cutting them down. Please let me know if you do that too, because I kind of sometimes feel weird. Like the ones on warranty, it sort of makes sense. Like if somebody was ever going to hassle you or something, like, oh, I got the original packaging lady. That sort of a thing, but I don't know. Update on the ratchet. I love the thing. Is there something better out there? Probably. But for what I'm doing, it's good. Do I have to turn it manually? I sure do. Not all the time. Some of the time. Would I have to turn an expensive ratchet manually? Don't know. Don't have one to compare it to. But it's been really nice. Again, these guys, they haven't seen a ton of use because, again, I'm old school, just like you can tell by the Sanford marker. right? And the Plymouth dealership pencil. I like stuff from the 90s and older, right? That's kind of where I'm happy. And, it's one of those deals. So I'm probably going to be that guy that still, makes a shop keep error, because I'm going to use it because I'll swear it's superior. And everyone else can go buy their $300 batteries and, invest in a new line every couple of iterations when they change things or make it incompatible. And I'll just be humming along with my Chicago pneumatic stuff from 1986, and you can say I'm crazy. But, yeah. At the end of the day, man, it's just kind of, I enjoy trying different things. And like I said, these Hercules, for what I'm doing, they've been fine. And will they do lug nuts? They sure will. Again, kind of depends what lug nuts you're doing, but as long as you're driving something that doesn't require a CDL, I feel pretty good telling you you'd be just fine. And again, for me, what I'm using this for is nothing near that torque. It's pretty lightweight, easy, simple stuff. So it works. It's pretty much all I need there. Otherwise, we would get something different. The anti-roll, let's see if we can... That's actually pretty legit. The Milwaukee, if the cap's on, isn't really going to roll that bad anyway. If the cap's off, hey, that could be an issue. But, yeah, I'm excited to try this thing. I did run them. They seem about the same to me. But again, apparently our old school one has 55 foot-pounds more, so... I don't know. If some of you killed one of those off, which again, since this one does have the 5-year warranty and it matches the old one better, if you killed one, I assume, like if let's say this thing dies next Saturday, I walk into Harbor Freight with my 5-year warranty, that one didn't even make it a year, they're going to send me out the door with his updated one, because they don't have any of those most likely. And am I getting an upgrade or downgrade? Let me know if you've used both. Some of you, probably like me, didn't even know it had changed. It would have to be one of those deals where you bought the 3/8 first to try it, and you're like, yeah, this thing's kind of legit. Oh, that's a good price. And you got them, and you're like, hey, how come these don't match? And particularly drive size to drive size, I was like, well, this is kind of interesting. So there you go. That's your video. That wasn't quick at all, but we had fun. We had Easter and Tony Stewart crossed over. We have Irwin clamps from the late 90s. We have Sanford markers. You got it all. There's not much to complain about, right? Life's good. But anyway, I hope you had a good time. I know I did. It's also 8:38. I should probably go in and eat, and I think the Lakers and Nuggets are going to play game 2 here shortly, so I'll check that out while I have a sandwich. But, yeah, we will leave it at that. Again, anything you want to share, first-hand feedback, experience with any of this stuff, feel free to let me know. By the time you tell me those Pittsburgh clamps are terrible, I'll unfortunately have found out the hard way. But, hey, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. So, yeah, I'll leave it at that. Again, thanks so much for watching. Looking forward to taking this thing to work, even though it's now the fancy one and makes these others look old and antiquated. But, hey, as I mentioned, I have no issues with that. So... LoneStarMopars.com is the website. You can find us Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all 3 at Lone Star Mopars. You know the drill. If you like the video, leave a like. If you like multiple videos, I encourage you to subscribe. Why? Because if you do that, ring the bell and jump your Charger across the creek with your 1990s Irwin 6-inch clamp, YouTube just might notify you as you sign an autograph with your Sanford marker. We got new videos. When? Every Wednesday and Saturday, 9 a.m. Texas time. With that said, thanks so much for watching. I hope I catch you back here for more action from the shop.